Hello. Today I'm going to talk about a very interesting and very important topic in modern astrology, and that's the importance of the Nodal Axis. It's a relatively new topic. It has not been researched extremely well, and many astrologers don't even consider it into their readings. But it's more and more people in the astrology community realize the importance of this nodal axis. And it was under the radar. It's been under the radar for a long time in Western astrology. But now that we know more also about Vedic astrology, more is known about this very important axis in your chart. Some say it's the axis with the most tension in your chart. There's lots of, first I want to say, there's lots of good videos on YouTube describing this nodal axis, whether it's in Western astrology with North Node and South Node, or in Vedic astrology with Rahu, the dragon head, and Ketu, the tail of the dragon. So and all of that is very interesting, and probably true. But I want to share some knowledge that you might have not heard, or that might be more elaborate on what already has been said. So one thing that has been said, and most people already have heard, about the North Node being your destiny. The South Node represents the archetype of the South Node, the sign and the house that your South Node is in represents your youth. It represents the life you were born into, certain qualities that you had, certain lifestyle questions, that are represented by this South Node. And then we have the North Node, which is your destiny. That's where you actually transform in life. That's where things get different, and new territory is might be explored, or not, or not really. And that's the whole point. That's why this axis has become so important, because we can really see it. We can really see the implication over a person's course of their lifetime. So the nodal axis. You do have, of course, you have transits to this axis, but regardless of whether there's a transit to the axis itself or a transit to your personal planet, you have Pluto or Saturn on your sun, whatever conflicts you're dealing with ultimately is supposed to help you fulfill your Dharma, your soul contracts, and that will always pull you towards integrating the North Node. And that's exactly the thing, what I've literally observed in the charts and the people that I've researched. This is where fate plays in, This is not just about some tendency or something wishy-washy. This is literally fate here. These are literally opportunity. It can be in form of opportunities, the North Node. It comes through people. It's usually people that you meet, that bring in these themes that you have to integrate. Already when you're young, you will attract people into your life who might have their moon or sun on your North Node, and they usually leave an imprint on you. They either represent the quality of this archetype, what you need to integrate, or they literally give you a kick in the butt to bring it out in you, So anyhow, the importance here is that the things happening from the North Node really are fated events, and also especially the problem with the South Node is it can dissipate. You cannot be stuck here. This is the area where if it's very familiar. And if you get stuck in this particular area, bad things happen, okay? So I wrote an essay about this where I describe the importance and the difference between karma versus dharma, and how karma, if you see karma as something that comes to you, either your whole birth chart is your karma, basically that's what you were given in this life. But dharma specifically is what you have to fulfill. It's the duty that you came into this world to fulfill. And we get distracted. All religious faith talk about, being on the right path and getting distracted from walking a certain path, And in Hinduism, there's a lot of talk about dharma and fulfilling your duty, so to speak. In the Western world, we have other words for it. But I'll just read part of my essay here. So ancient scriptures talk about the importance of working, without one's fruits of labor. That's karma. Karma is also used to describe events and or people entering our lives from out of nowhere, with the potential to throw us off balance, or in the worst case scenario, drive us into real insanity or even suicide. So as an astrologer and spiritual healer, of course, it's my mission to help people prevent these situations. Or should you be in the dark night of the soul, help to see the purpose of the suffering and how this bad karma is related to your soul mission of fulfilling your dharma. In order to understand the notion of dharma and its difference to karma, we need to look no further than to astrology. While the term dharma can be translated as duty, we hear more often words like soul contracts or soul purpose, especially in the Western world. Whatever term we use, here we are dealing with matters that need to be fulfilled and learned on our part. In the person's horoscope, this is represented by the Nodal Axis, in particular the North Node, or in Vedic astrology, the Dragon's Head. The South Node, or Ketu, represents themes of one's youth until mid-30s, as well as past incarnations. So it's like you have the influence of past incarnation, if you want to believe in it, but you don't even need to bring in past incarnations to see the effect of the Nodal Axis. I think that's very important to realize. Whether you believe in past lives or not, this is about your youth and what you bring in early in life. So most of us want to hold on to the South Node themes because it feels familiar. Nevertheless, fate or karma will prevent the person from getting stuck in their South Node. No matter how hard they resist, not until the qualities represented by sign and house of the North Node are integrated, And the good news here is the universe will present the individual with plenty of opportunity to learn the North Node lesson. So in other words, what happens, your fate, so to speak, will bring you opportunities. It can be opportunities, and depending on the placement of this axis, it's more your calls to duty, so it's not the same for everybody. Some people have more free will. For some people, it's more positive opportunity. For others, it can be very strict, where the North Node works. The North Node can also work in a very strict manner, and not even give you that much free will. But here you have the free will, maybe to, maybe you have to learn submission. So you will not have all this opportunity. But what do you make of it? How do you react to it? To be limited, maybe. Maybe you're here to learn not to be as free anymore as you used to be. Maybe you have to learn responsibility and limitation. How do you react to it? But what's important here is, so ultimately we can see an intricate connection between fate and free will here. Some of the most important decisions a person is faced with in life are shown in this nodal axis. Usually the choice is between, do I remain in what is familiar, or will I go ahead into uncharted territory that feels unfamiliar yet appears somehow necessary or even unavoidable? Lack of personal control. Sometimes the nodal axis is unavoidable. Other times the person has more free will here, depending on other combinations. Nevertheless, the more we refuse to embrace these lessons that unfold themselves on our path, we will attract more bad karma. The more you refuse to embrace these lessons, to follow the North Node with the opportunity or whatever, if you refuse that and you go back to this familiar South Node, you already know it, you're not supposed to, These are the areas actually you can feel you shouldn't, but you do it because it's familiar and you're scared. It's about being scared. What happens, you will attract more bad karma. And one cause of confusion here is the belief that a certain amount of karma is accrued in our Akashic record, which will be worked off until the debt is reduced or even completely gone, right? And it's not exactly how it works. The karma we attract in life is always relative to how well we are fulfilling our Dharma. What we consider bad karma is in reality an attempt of the universe to pull us out of the overly familiar South Node habits of thoughts and feelings. The more discrepancy lies between the two, in other words, the less a person has integrated the North Node lessons when they first presented themselves, the harsher will be the perceived fate and lack of control when a few years later the same theme reappears. Okay, so luckily an astrologer could help you with this. So let me close this document here. Whoopsie, where are we? And I think that's very important to realize, the difference, that there is a difference between karma and dharma, these Hindu concepts, but you can see it play out in life, how people get opportunities thrown to them and they might not even take it, for whatever reason, and people getting stuck in a familiar environment that is just not conducive to their development. And I've seen real life examples of people who are literally stuck in their South Node, and their life just stalls more and more and more. I even know one person who passed away in their 40s, completely stuck in their South Node. And sometimes you can see from an outside, you can see, if this person would leave or do certain things differently, it wouldn't take very much, but their whole life could change. But they feel too comfortable. So you have to look at the entire chart here. You have to look at the entire chart to understand what is happening, because everything that happens, almost everything, maybe not everything, but all the big transits as well. You have Pluto, you have the dark night of the soul. Look at your nodal axis, You have Pluto on your sun or your moon. It might not be connected to your nodal axis in the chart. You might have no aspect in between them. But the growth the transformation that's happening is towards fulfilling your Dharma. So that could help. Another thing that needs to be mentioned that I have not read or heard anywhere, the way to treat the nodal axis in terms of transits, first of all, it's really conjunctions that are most important, it's a conjunction, and even regular transits might not even be that powerful, because everything that happens in your life, every major transit, even if it's not connected in the chart with the nodal axis, is towards fulfilling these qualities, towards integrating these qualities of the archetype represented in the North Node. In Vedic astrology, so in Western astrology, the North Node and the South Node, it's clearly that, the South Node you have to let go of, and we can see that it's assumed. The reason Western astrologers assume that is because we do literally see these implications of how a person's life changes to North Node matters, In Vedic astrology, there's more. It's a bit of a different story. First of all, we have the sidereal chart. We have the sidereal planets, which is 23-degree backwards, basically. So it's 23-degree, the sign, probably the prior sign. And I made a whole series of videos about that. If you have your nodal axis in the Western chart in one sign, but you also have it in the Vedic chart in the previous sign, and that's also very interesting. The thing is, first of all, there's not a whole lot of research. We have some research in Western and Vedic, separately, basically, but we don't have much research so far combining these two axes. So I don't really know if it has the exact same implication. It's difficult to tell. We don't have enough research on really looking at them both. But there are some differences in the way Vedic astrology views the North Node, although they could be integrated into the Western view, and that is the North Node in Vedic is symbolized as a dragon's head without a stomach. Meaning, actually both of them are malefics, right? In Vedic astrology, both Rahu and Ketu are considered malefics, and extremes. Both of them represent extremes, of course. So Rahu is very greedy. Rahu always wants to suck up whatever sign he is in, whatever house and sign he is in, Rahu in the 7th house wants to consume relationships, for example, one-on-one relationships. He will also attract it, But the thing is, we can definitely integrate the two, maybe not everything is bad here. But what I've also seen, it is true that the North Node will be overdone. You will overdo the North Node, but the reason is it's a quality that you have not learned properly when you come into this life. It's a quality that might even be suppressed by your environment. So whatever the North Node represents, these are qualities you have within you. And you're here to learn that. Just 1 second. So it might be overdone at first. You might be overly whatever the North Node is in. But the difference here is, the big difference is, here you tend to get away with it. In the North Node area, you tend to get away with it, because you are here to learn these qualities. So the universe is more forgiving in this area, because you're here to learn this. You can make more mistakes here, in other words. But it's also true that it can suck you in, and there is, and you want more and more and more. But one observation that's very important, and I've read that in a Western astrology book, that's about the South Node. If you do not let go of the South Node, it can literally become the channel for evil in your life. And that's one thing that I've seen to be true. That's where evil will show itself in your life through the area of the south node. You know, if it's a south node in the 7th house, it will be a partner. It would be a romantic partner, for example, or just the involvement in it. You know, it might not even be the person itself, but your involvement in it. It will become it can become detrimental to you unless you have integrated the 1st house. You need to integrate the opposite sign. Now I'll also read you a couple passages of this book. It's not bad, it's quite interesting. Karmic astrology. There's not a whole lot of books on the Nodal Axis, but this one I found, Martin Schulman, Karmic Astrology. So when he says about the South Node, and that's also important to realize, the South Node is not symbolic of one past incarnation, but rather a combination of events, ideas, attitudes, and thoughts from every incarnation whose accumulated unresolved effects have created the current life. Okay, so it's not just one sequence, you know. And of course, it's not the North Node. Not everything in the North Node is completely new to you. You know, you have a North Node in the 4th house. You're here to create a family or whatever. Of course, you had a family in some incarnation before, but the energy you come into in this life is Capricorn. You know, that's more the Capricorn energy. That's how it works. You know, of course, you did that before. You have a North Node in the 9th house. You're here to become a teacher. Maybe you were probably a teacher in the past life already. So the North Node is also about past life, actually, but it's something you didn't quite do well enough. You have to learn. You have to redo it. You know. And also, for some, the South Node can be limiting, while for others, whose past foundations are firm and large, it can be just a factor which brings the present life to a fruition of achievement. And that's also true. That's also one thing that astrologers have observed. Some people seem to do well with their South Node, you know. The South Node is a foundation for their career. They might have a career that is very South Node related. But still, these things are not always visible. You know, this is more internal. Sometimes it is more the internal development of a person, but it does include career, relationships, and all that. But sometimes you might think the person is in their South Node because they have this career, you know, but they might not. They might have moved into their North Node already. But you can tell when people are stuck in their South Node and not fulfilling their Dharma because of the energy they have. You know, it gets, it's a downward spiral. You know, there's a feeling of being stuck. The person is regressing, the person is not developing, and things are not happening in their life. Nothing's happening in their life, you know. So yeah, he also says it's the potentially weakest spot. The South Node becomes the potentially weakest spot in your life. It can also create insecurity, complexes. You know, it's an area of life where you know you do it well, but somehow it's like a quicksand. Actually, I think that's here. It's I think it was mentioned here. Too often, the past itself involves an individual in a type of curious fascination, hypnotizing him back into old methods of behavior, whereupon he forgets the reason for delving into his past and makes his reliving it the actual existence rather than the means to an end he originally desired. The South Node can be like quicksand, safe enough to look back into as long as no physical steps are taken in that direction. And that's exactly the point here. You know, you have people who do, especially if there's planets on their south node, people might be very stable in the profession that is south node related, but they're not going to go out to look for another job in this area. They just have a stable job, and they can build up on that. You don't have to leave it, you know. And then it does become more internal. One step into the south node is almost certain to immerse the individual in reliving compressed memories from which it may well take years and the help of many other people to pull him back into his normal state. And that's exactly what I was talking about earlier. That's where you see the difference, you know, and that's where you also see the difference with how free will and fate are intertwined, because you have clearly fated events happening around the themes of this nodal axis. But of course you have free will, you know, of course you have choices. Although some of these dharmas are less about choice, you know, some are more, maybe your dharma consists of exploring your free will, you know. Some people have, maybe that's what you're here to learn, more free will, others not. Some people are here to learn relationships. They're the ones who seem to meet partners, and you're like, why? You know, I'm a nice person, I'm attractive, I'm nice, I don't need partners. Maybe that's not what you're here to learn, and that's why the energy is not, your fate is not conducive in this area. Your fate will be most conducive in the North Node ruled area, you know, but it's also the area where you might be not so interested. Some people are not at all interested, and that can be then it's detrimental. You know, the person might have an interest, but they're just not taking the steps, and that's what I've seen in my research. You know, although it's nearly impossible to avoid that. It's nearly impossible to avoid the North Node lesson, but many people do. You know, many people do get stuck in some overly familiar rut that's not working anymore, and they might not know where to head. You know, what is it? What is it that I need to integrate here? What exactly do I have to? How do I get from A to B to C? You know, maybe there's something else you need to do to integrate before you can also reintegrate the themes of your South Node. Anyhow, I hope this helped. So take a look at the series that I made on for YouTube, and let me know. You know, let me know if you have any questions about this and how it plays out in your life. Take care.